I bear perfection, both hands are treacherous, I'm ambidextrous. You can't outgrind or outshine me with a fancy necklace. My aura can't be messed with, I'm cocking fullies, dropping bullies, rocking hoodies, popping woolies, ride on the bench, you reckless. Got trust funds for my loved ones, my family precious, my crowns barking more than Charles Bronson. This can't be death wish, death wish.
Peace, 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 family. How you all doing? I hope all is well with you. Today I'm coming on here to talk about the Libra full moon happening on the 16th, which is the end of this week. Actually, I think it's a week from today. If I am, well, a week from yesterday. And so right after that, we have the eclipse season, which I'll start to post a lot more about that as we go along. And if you want your weekly horoscope or your eclipse horoscope specifically dedicated to you, make sure you send me an email at info@awayoflife.net to get more information on how you can go about getting that. It'll be directly, specifically to your chart and what's going on with you. So you might not want to miss out on that, family. It helps you so that you don't have to get prepared. You know, you will already be prepared. So let me find my notes, because without them, I am a mess. All right. So let's get into it, family. My name is Keisha. I'm the owner of A Way of Life. I am a career and business coach using astrology. And please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell if you like any of our information so that you can be notified every time we go live. Family, we appreciate you in advance. All right, so the Libra full moon happening on April 16th is going to be a pretty big deal. Full moons tend to bring things to a head, a conclusion, or a completion. So we're wrapping up a cycle here. I actually would suggest everybody go back and watch the Libra full moon, which I'll have on my YouTube page at the top of the page. That'll be the video playing. But I will go back and watch that video because that was when, right around the same time that we had the first eclipse. It wasn't actually an eclipse. It was just the moon of the eclipse because it was a Taurus moon. And that's going to give you more information to what was going on at that time and what could be coming back up for you. So just to get some pieces of that. And so you may also see the fruits of your labor, or it'll be shining a light on something that you didn't know, you were unaware of. Libra is always about balance, you know, what to spend on, you know, whether that's spending more time or who to spend more time with, who not to spend more time with, what to focus on, what not to focus on, what to eliminate in your life. Libra wants to bring balance and harmony and equality to your life. And so those things are going to be highlighted at this time, those transitions, you know, to whatever is not happening and what is happening. So I don't want to just focus on the things that may not be going right, but more than likely, if they're not, these things are going to show up on the lower end of Libra, even Aries, because we are still in the late degree of Aries season. And as I mentioned, when I did the Aries new moon, is to really watch what's coming up now, because that's going to be what you're meant to work on really for the entire 18 months. but also the entire year, this entire year, right? Because it set the stage for the new year. And so it was really highlighting things that you need to do just a little bit better or bring balance to in some way, shape, or form in your life, right? And so Libra rules relationships, and not just romantic relationships, all relationships. Libra rules contracts, agreements, any kind of legal stuff, beauty, art, peace, justice, creativity, because it's ruled by Venus, love, even money, counseling, advising, and legal matters come up here a lot. And I think when we're thinking about relationships on a grand scale, is that we forget all those pieces. I was just having a conversation with somebody in regards to relationships, and it was like, one person was focused more on the money piece, the other person was focused more on the love piece. And, how do you bring that to balance? Is it worth bringing it to balance with somebody who only sees one aspect? Are you good at the love aspect and the money aspect? Is there ways that you can kind of come together to have these bigger kinds of conversations? These are the types of things that Libra's going to bring up. It really depends on, what you got going on in your chart, really, but that's just one example. So yeah, this full moon is an opportunity to put yourself in other people's shoes, understanding where they are coming from. Of course, self-awareness is necessary, again, for this to be a conscious skill. But I mean, people know how they want to feel, whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing. I'm not here to debate that with you, but I feel like you know what you want from your relationships, right? And that's what's really going to come up consciously: what you want, what you don't want, and the people that you currently have in your life right now. If you look to the left and the right, you look behind you, and you look in front of you, all of those people surrounding you, bringing you things that are going to, um, fulfill you in some type of way, especially the places where you don't do so well at. I think that's probably one of the most important things to focus on, because you can't be all things at once. It's not a real concept. And you need help to get specific things done. And so you really want people that you can trust, right? Who can help you in those areas where you're not so well at. That's why even coaches and people in high places still have coaches and guides and people who kind of, tell them and direct them on how to live their life. And counseling. So if you think about all the factors it factors in to be in a relationship, romantic or otherwise, you start looking at all the things that Libra rules, and it's going to begin to show you, like, what are you doing, what aren't you doing, and how can you bring some of those things into your life. It's not really more so about whether you have them or not, right? Because we can have them or not have them and feel like we don't need them. This is not up to you. It's not up for debate. When you're on this journey of trying to be a better person, your spiritual journey, you want to make sure that you're doing everything that you can to be the best person that you can be, right? And so being mindful of that is very important. And I think it's going to hit people real heavy this time around. So you can become more conscious in your relationships at this time. We could also become aware of how we project unresolved fears, frustrations onto others. That's going to be huge. That's going to be huge because we're in Aries season. The sun in Aries and the moon in Libra are both square Pluto and Capricorn, forming a T square. This is probably one of the most hardest aspects to have with this energy. This is going to change and transform relationships. The T square puts things into action, meaning you can't run from whatever is being highlighted at this time. And I think it makes it even stronger that it's happening in Aries season, and Pluto being the current ruler of the modern ruler of Scorpio, Aries being the ancient ruler of Scorpio. That's a potent double hit, right? And they're in opposition to one another. So this is you're gonna feel this, family. Like, trust me, it doesn't really matter who you are, what spectrum you're on. People who are doing the work, obviously you're going to get more blessings than the other stuff, but nobody's perfect, right? There's always room for growth, right? So you can see that where maybe you evolve in your relationship in some way, shape, or form, and that's something to celebrate at this time, right? But more than anything, it's going to show you the places where you could do just a little bit better in your relationships. Um, in contrast to that opposition, because Libra is the opposite of Aries, right? And then Pluto being the energy of relationships, but once you get to a higher level of relationships, so I even think this is going to be a little bit harder for people who have been in relationships for a long time and they've been brushing this stuff under the rug. I think it might be harder for those people and people who struggle with building relationships for one reason or another. Aries is about destruction. I've been talking about Aries quite a lot throughout the Aries season. And so, what was coming up for you for Aries season? Did you do what was asked of you? Because then that might make this just a little bit easier. Are you seeking the answers of the questions that Aries new moon had for you? And then Pluto being the modern ruler of this energy, and we have it in the South Node. This is going to be huge. And then we have eclipse season coming up in a few weeks. So this is just the beginning of what we'll be working on really until June quite heavily, and then the energy will start to break up. But again, this will be the mission for the entire year and even into next year, because of Jupiter and Jupiter moving into Aries in May, which is right in the middle of eclipse season. So family, buckle up. You're in for a ride here. It's time to get honest about you, yourself, and the role that you play in your relationships, right? So this is going to highlight how power is being used on the world stage. Even then, too, there can be a lot of intense emotions coming out around power. This could be shining a light on the lack of integrity, accountability, and corruption in the world. And in your personal life, we can see a lot of this for next year as well. Like I was mentioning, especially the sex trafficking, criminals, and secrets coming out. This is going to be a big deal. Um, but in a good way. I don't want to scare people. That's not what I'm trying to do here, but it's important to be aware, right? That these things are coming up. And I'll be going deeper into the South Node and what that is. But I did do a separate video on Mars, talking about Mars from every aspect. I definitely go watch that video. Also, I've also talked about the South and North Node happening in the yearly 2022 videos as well. So I will go check that out also. So what are you leaving behind and what are you moving away from? If people don't feed you value, balance, harmony, growth, love, you'll be releasing them 9 times out of 10, unless people are unwilling, right? Because Pluto is also the area of divination, right? And also counseling, psychology, what makes people tick. And so this is when you get down and dirty. If you have somebody who's strong enough, they're going to push and vouch for, well, let's talk about it and see where we can do this. And at the end of that, if there's nothing you feel like you can be resolved, then we both part ways equally without the baggage, right? That's what we're really trying to wrap up here, is the psychological conditioning around feeling bad about certain things or not closing cycles properly, right? I don't think we really have those skills, not like in a bad way or in a negative sense, but where they're teaching that class at. And I talked about this in a lot of my other videos last year. Maybe I'll start reposting a lot of some of those videos that I did, because I think I did like the difference of language or something like that. Maybe I'll repost that stuff again. But I mean, these are the things that we really miss when we try to avoid um, taking shortcuts when we're in the process of starting a business, or getting educated, right? And again, not in a bad way. I'm not speaking about this from a negative perspective, but because when you think about counseling, especially in the Black community, don't nobody wants to go to counseling, right? We don't trust anybody. We're not raised to do those types of things. It has a stigma around it, right? You go to counseling, you start mouthing off about the things that are going on in your house. Now you got DCF and all these other people in your life trying to tell you what to do. So I'm not speaking about this from a negative perspective, but we have to get past that, right? We have to start holding ourselves accountable for the way that our lives are at this point. Like, we already know the basics and why we're in the situation that we're in, but now we got to do something to change it and do something different to move forward. And I think that's going to be the intensity from this moon. Now, they have more counselors today that are colored. They also have the divinations. Those tools work. Get a reading. It's a longer process. These are not things that are going to happen overnight. You have to be patient with yourself in the process. Talking about Pluto in general, it's all long term. Pluto does things step by step. And that's what can even add to the intensity, right? And so we really, 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 really have to get like past it not being cool to be educated and doing things properly, right? This is Pluto, Capricorn we're talking about here. Capricorn wants structures and systems, It wants you to be professional and etiquette, and doing things the right way, showing up on your best behavior, best dress, you know what I'm saying? I had to pop my collar. No, but seriously, I think we got a lot of letting and releasing of those old patterns that we have going on. And so we'll be working on how to measure those things and what steps do we take to get there. Get there meaning, just to go back and recap, if people don't feed you value, balance, harmony, growth, and love, you'll be releasing them. And then you got to work on how to measure that. What are going to be the identifiers that say this person isn't really who I think I am, but you don't have to be nasty about it, right? We got to have better processes for exit plans, right? We need better boundaries, right? We really, really, really have to set those things up, write them out. What are they? This is everything that you do when you're setting up a business plan, and why you have legal contracts and agreements. I'm taking a class right now that it's not affiliated at all with any of these. Like, this woman is Black, it's her own business, but because she studies divination, when we set up to her class, she has an entire syllabus written out with dates, times, when the teachers meet, when we meet, what we're learning, why we're learning it, everything to a T. And these are a part of the divination tools that we learn. These are the things that they took out of the Bible that we kind of miss, being so religious and all that, and making that our faith-based practices. And these are the pieces that they left out. They've separated all of the things that we spiritually, like our roots that we were brought up with, and you're not getting them all at once. Now, in order to get them, they'll make you think, well, unless you're doing business, you have absolutely no reason to want to learn about business. Lies. That is your culture that they are meddling with. And so we really have to get back in the habit of loving to learn and read, or following people who are already doing the things that you want to do and how to embody that, because there's so much more to it that we're missing because we think that this stuff is not cool anymore. And but anyway, I love this ladies class because you have to sign, right? And you have to make a payment, right, before you start. And there's an entire process. She's like, we have to start on time and we have to end on time because respectfully, that's what people signed up for. Get it? Signed. I'm not being funny. I'm really just trying to point out, and I hope that that example sheds some light on. I mean, obviously, you're not going to make your friend sign something if it's just a friendship. You obviously can't pick and choose your family, but you can choose how you deal with them. Those are what boundaries are. It just says, I'm only willing to go this much with you. And you're going to have to respect that, but you got to be upfront with it. You got to stand firm in it, and don't let anybody waver you or make you feel bad. I think I talked about this in my last video I did a little bit with the Neptune and Jupiter conjunction happening just days before this, by the way, which is another transit that'll be playing out and affecting this in some way, shape, or form. But we don't practice the male energies anymore. And I know a lot of people is just like, Keisha, you always say that. What you talking about? That's your practical spirituality, how to protect yourself, why it's important for those things. And not letting people make you feel like being so forceful, right? Because that's what we say when we speak about the male energy, right? You notice that people are always like, well, she was too harsh or too strong, or you know what I mean? And that there's no need to be rude, right? I'm not saying that, but you'll notice how there are a lot of cue words for strong people. And that to me is the masculine energy that has been completely decimated in this culture, this society that we grow up in, that we are so disconnected from. But it's important to have as a part of letting people know no is a complete sentence, right? If I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it. But not to be fresh. First of all, I'm probably not fucking good at it if I'm saying no. So if I fuck up and I do something incorrectly and it's not to your liking, well, now whose fault is that? Right? Who are we holding accountable? We have to have a system that has these things in place so that we can hold people to it. And these are how you kind of avoid issues. So if somebody says no, then you never even get to the point where you can say, well, you fucked that up. You didn't do a good job or whatever. It doesn't even have to be like that, but you understand what I'm saying. Don't leave room for error, right? That's what all I'm saying. So, yeah. So we'll be considering the long term and taking responsibility for the reasons why we haven't accomplished the things that we want to accomplish around harmony, balance, value, growth, and love. This is going to challenge the Aries energy that wants to do the self, right? Aries is a very selfish energy, not selfish, but about the self, right? It's a time to focus on you. And so now that we're just at the tip of moving into Taurus energy, we haven't quite met Taurus yet, though. And so we're on the brink of like, I'm still doing me. And here comes a Libra full moon with the freaking Pluto T square coming in like, yeah, but this is about relationships now. So what? And so that's going to add again to the intensity. So this can test your strength, your will, your strength and will to purge. Where are you out of balance in regards to your emotional attachments? And can you cleanse that now? But not before shining a light on unresolved power issues, unconscious motivations, habits, and thought patterns. On a personal level, you can see a lot of things about yourself you can't, or that you don't like, or where you're taking your power back. So this is also trining Saturn, thank God, even though Saturn is the biggest troublemaker in the whole entire world. but it's in Aquarius this time. And this is what I like about this, because this is the age that we're moving into. And I like Saturn being here in this particular energy because it wants sovereignty. And I did a big video on this talking about this. I can't stress how important it is to have freedom within your relationships and being honest and open about that. What does that look like to you? Yeah. So Saturn has been the cause of a lot of this conflict because it's been in a square to Uranus. That was last year, and that's happening all this year. Actually, I think it ends right around this time, but Saturn wants structure, practicality, prepare for the future, build a business, or, things are going to end up in a crisis, or you can feel like you're in a crisis. We are socialized, a socialized culture that thinks like socialists, but when you have conversations just for the sake of having conversations, it leaves the door open for problems, like I was saying before. This is the purpose for strategic, for being strategic when connecting and communicating with others. I remember I was taking a counseling class. I kid you not, I can't make this up. And we was like in groups or partners, right? And we had just kind of like wrapped up this one in particular little project that she had us do. And we were just kind of chatting after that, and she was, gathering all the information. And the girl that I was with was just sitting down having a conversation, just, explaining how she really liked it or whatever. And she goes, it was like having a conversation. That's what counseling is like, right? And of course, the teacher just so happened to be around us when she said that. And she was like, counseling is not like having a conversation. And anybody who's in the psychology field knows that you get tools out of counseling. There is a purpose to the reason why you're sitting there talking. It's not frivolous conversation, and I think that's something else that we really struggle with here because, we want to socialize. That's what a socialist, culture is kind of like. There's no real structure or status or, again, accountability, preparedness, none of that stuff comes with this culture. Which is interesting because I'm pretty sure that, no, I'm not going to say America is the only one because I know that there are a few more, but even in those other places, they have culture. And so it doesn't look like what America looks like, but, I'm not going to get into that now. But, yeah, so that's why, again, Libra rules contracts, agreements, understanding language, and the language of a legal agreement. If you go through and really read all of that stuff and what's in there, it's all about holding people accountable so that you can protect yourself from frivolous people who don't know or mindless people who aren't aware. So Saturn is bringing light to where that needs to be done in your life to build a solid foundation for yourself. This is risk management, goal setting, and then you're going to be moving forward with whatever it is that you got going on, especially around internal power and understanding your rights. Nothing changes unless we do, people. And that's just the honest God truth. So Libra can be a perfectionist on the lower vibration, never satisfied because things aren't perfect. Through comparing and competing, right? The opposite is Aries, and that's Aries. Those are Aries themes, and so there's no balance or harmony in comparing or competing. Again, no frivolous conversation. In the 3D, somebody's going to be better or in a higher position, and if you're ashamed of yourself for that or not being better, you may not be aware of it, but you'll be aware that you're doing this, but if you're holding it in, that's going to cause you to project on others. We see this all the time in this country. This happens in school with teachers. If there's somebody who's doing a really good job, that one person gets a congratulation and nobody else does. Even teachers, there's a hierarchy. In the workplace, there's a hierarchy. That's just how this society works. And if you're projecting your tendencies on others, which is not real, by the way, this reality is not real. We know that. We say it all the time, but yet get real mad when stuff happens. And trust me, I'm guilty of it too. I promise y'all, I'm not talking like I'm any better. But being aware of it is the first step to being able to address it and catch yourself. And then you have your tools in place. Okay, so now what am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? And get strong in that so that it doesn't happen again. Okay. So you'll hear people who will say that they hear the same thing over and over again. And they say, oh, that's what everybody says. You're missing the warnings when you do that. And then your ego is going to convince you to keep doing that again, because that's just what the ego does. I think I talked about this in another video when I was trying to quit smoking. A whole real life thing, y'all. I promise you, it was the worst fight with myself I had ever. You have to have your tools set in place, because the ego wants you to do what this country does. It's just easier, right? When you have to go against the grain, it makes life so much more difficult, but it makes you stronger in the end. And that's the part I feel like we all have just like completely just like, yeah, let it go. And that is just the wrong thing to do. I think I used this example before in the past as well, when the Jews talk about their situation, about their what they went through with slavery, right, and being slaughtered and whatever. They always talk about that. They never forget where they came from. There's a reason for that, but we try to hide it under the rug. Nobody wants to talk about the slavery of Black people. And granted, we don't have to have it with every goddamn body, right? But we do need to remind people about why we have these boundaries, because look at what happened to us, right? And in order for us to get over that, we have to go through it. And in order to go through, we have to understand why that's so important. And if we keep hiding it and pushing it down and not dealing with it and bringing light to it and revealing it, I mean, how is it ever going to change? How are you going to change within that process, And it's tough. It's not easy, because it's been so long since we've been forcing ourselves to kind of like shut it down, stuff it down. The deeper we stuff it down, it didn't really happen. It didn't really happen, And you'll also hear a lot of people say, well, where's all the good help? The people who are supposed to be here to help. And the truth is that they're here, right? People are here to help, but not in this frequency. If we don't elevate, you're not going to get the support that you need, because you're not aware. You're ignoring the signs, you haven't figured out who you truly are yet. You have to start there. That has to be the mission and the goal, is to figure out who you truly are, what you want, and what does that look like for you. And you continuously build within that foundation. And so when you're conscious enough to see what's going on, you're not afraid anymore. It just becomes like a conversation that you're having with yourself in your head, like the way I talk about what meditation really is, right? From that perspective. It's when you stop and you say, let me step back, go within and find some answers, ask for help, right? This is not the same as separating yourself from others either. It's certainly not being blinded by the illusion of the material world, but finding balance between the two, because being down here in this material world is where all of your blessings are going to manifest. And that's where stuff starts to get real fun, because you never really know if you're blurring the lines or not. And that's what we're going to be learning with that Neptune, Jupiter, and Pisces transit. Is like, are you blurring the lines? Do you want this material world to manifest so that you can pop your collar and Take some pictures. Is it just for show? Is it all for the fame? Or is it really based and rooted in your roots and your culture and where you're from, so that you can prepare for the next generation? You need to learn how to ride the bull. Then you become a bull master. Because you need to learn how to handle power before you can actually be in power, right? This is, we're talking about your emotions here, how to control your emotions. And really, believe it or not, this is the story of Wall Street. People got rich, they solidified their future and their children's future by keeping balance. When things get crazy, they buy, or they stand still, right? And when things are not crazy, then they buy. You hear this if you're in the world of investments, you'll hear about this conversation happening all the time. Um, when things are crazy, people will buy. When they're not, people will kind of chill out, right? It's the opposite. I'm pretty sure I'm screwing that up, but you know what I'm talking about. And so the question becomes, are you maximizing your value? Are you getting educated on how to get out of an experience every time you go through something you didn't expect? The only thing that matters is the 5D. It all starts with your home. Your house is your home. We learned this in 2020, right? Was the message and the lesson of Capricorn. You know, um, when you inhibit this and inhabit this body, once you understand that this is where you go to find answers, you separate yourself from everything else. And this is just the beginning. This opens up a portal of angels that do the work for you, or you open up the ability to allow yourself to be guided, right? It's about being empowered, and there's nothing else. Stay focused on your creation, period. And that's how you get through the matrix. But I'm gonna pipe it down. I'm shut down. I hope that you found this information helpful, family, because y'all know I could go talking on and on and on. But seriously, I hope you found this information helpful. I love and appreciate every single one of y'all. Peace.